The sun was sinking slowly behind the horizon, painting the sky with strokes of orange, red, and purple. In the village of Togbavi, evenings carried a rhythm of their own. The air was filled with the smell of roasted maize, the soft hum of women grinding cassava, and the distant sound of children laughing as they chased each other in the dusty lanes. Life here was simple, but it breathed with an ancient heartbeat, one that tied the living to the ancestors and the land. In a small clay hut, just at the edge of the village where the tall palm trees bent gently in the evening breeze, lived Awa. Her face carried the traces of hardship, wrinkles not just of age but of sorrow endured. 10 years had passed since she had lost her husband, a fisherman swallowed by the restless river during a storm. His body had never been recovered, and from that day forward, Awa had worn the invisible garment of widowhood. Yet, though life had stolen much from her, it had left her one gift, her only treasure, her son, Komi. Komi was 12, but already his presence shone brighter than many men twice his age. He was slender, with quick, intelligent eyes, and a smile that lit up even the gloomiest days. Villagers often paused to watch him as he carried his mother's basket to the market, or as he sat under the shade of the mango tree, reading from his worn schoolbooks. He was a boy of dreams. Dreams larger than the small village of Togbavi, larger even than the mighty river that had claimed his father. That evening, as the last rays of sunlight filtered through the leaves, Awa and Komi sat under their mango tree. Between them lay a simple meal, roasted maize, a bowl of spicy groundnut soup, and cassava fufu wrapped in banana leaves. Awa watched him eat, her heart swelling with quiet pride. Every movement he made reminded her of her late husband, the tilt of his head, the way he laughed with his eyes before his lips. "Komi," she said softly, breaking the silence. "Do you remember the stories I used to tell you about the spirits of the river?" The boy looked up, his mouth full, and nodded. "Yes, Mama. You said that the river has eyes and that it can keep secrets." She smiled faintly, though her voice carried a tremor. "It is true. The river took your father, but it also protects us if we honor it." Komi's gaze drifted to the distance, where the river lay hidden behind a wall of trees. "Sometimes I wonder, Mama," he said, "if Papa is still there, watching us from the water. Maybe he is one of those spirits now." Awa's chest tightened. She hated when Komi spoke of death so casually, as though the wounds of the past had not already bled her dry. But she said nothing, for she could not silence the curiosity of a child. After a moment, Komi put down his food and leaned against her shoulder. His voice dropped, soft and serious, as though carrying the weight of a secret. "Mama, if one day something happens to me, like it happened to Papa, promise me you won't cry too much. Promise me you'll remember that I will always be your shadow." Your Kapovi Awa froze. The night air grew heavier, the cicadas in the trees suddenly louder. In their tradition, words spoken beneath the moon carried power, especially when uttered with such conviction. She looked down at him, her heart pounding. "Don't say such things, Komi," she whispered, her fingers brushing his cheek. "Even the ancestors know I cannot bear another loss. You are my life, do you hear me?" "My life," Komi smiled, as though her fear amused him. "But Mama, shadows never leave. Even if the sun sets, the shadow finds a way to follow. I will always follow you." His words pierced her soul, settling like a stone at the bottom of her heart. She held him tightly, burying her face in his hair, silently begging the spirits to let her keep this boy, her last piece of happiness. Above them, the moon rose, pale and watchful, as if bearing witness to promises that neither of them truly understood. The morning sun rose slowly over Togbavi, scattering golden light across the fields of yam and cassava. The village awakened with the rhythm of drums echoing from a nearby shrine. Smoke curled from clay stoves as women prepared breakfast, and the voices of roosters blended with the chatter of children fetching water from the well. Komi, barefoot, ran along the dusty path carrying a calabash for his mother. His laughter rang clear, yet his mind was elsewhere. For nights he had dreamt strange dreams, visions of rivers whispering his name, of shadows moving where no light shone. He hadn't told Awa, afraid she would worry, but he could not silence the unease stirring in his chest. That afternoon, the village gathered under the great baobab tree, where the elders often told stories. Komi sat cross-legged among the children, his eyes wide with wonder. An old man with a white beard, known as Togbavi, lifted his staff and spoke in a voice that trembled with age but carried the weight of centuries. "Children of Togbavi," he began, "remember this, we are not alone. The river has ears, the forest has eyes. The ancestors walk with us even when we do not see them. Life is a circle, and death is not the end. It is a crossing." Komi leaned forward, every word burning into his mind. "Grandfather Azan," he interrupted timidly, "is it true that the spirits can speak to us in dreams?" The elder's gaze fell upon him. His eyes were sharp, penetrating, as though he could see inside Komi's soul. "Yes, child," he said, "dreams are doors. Some doors we open ourselves, but others are opened by the spirits. When they call your name, you must listen, but you must also be careful. Not every voice belongs to a friend," the crowd murmured, and Awa, standing at the edge of the gathering, felt her stomach tighten. She knew her son's curiosity could invite dangers he did not understand. Later that night, as Komi lay on his mat, he turned to his mother. "Mama," he whispered, "do you think Papa watches over us?" Awa's heart ached. She pulled the thin cloth over his shoulders and stroked his hair. "Yes, my son. Your father's spirit walks with us. But remember, love binds the living and the dead. That bond is powerful, but also heavy. Do not call to the spirits lightly." Komi was silent for a long while. Then he said softly, "Mama, sometimes in my dreams I hear a river calling me. It says my name. It feels like a friend Awa froze. Her hands trembled. In their tradition, when the river called someone by name, it was a warning, a sign that the person's life might soon be demanded. She tried to mask her fear, kissing his forehead. "It is only a dream, Komi. Tomorrow you will forget," but she did not forget. That night, long after Komi fell asleep, Awa sat outside beneath the mango tree, staring at the moon. The drums from the shrine echoed faintly in the distance. The shadows stretched long around her, and for the first time, she felt as though something unseen was watching. A chill passed over her skin. She whispered into the darkness, "Ancestors, spare my son. Do not let the river take him. I cannot lose him too." The wind rustled the leaves, as if answering, but gave no comfort. The evening began like any other. The sun melted into the horizon, leaving behind streaks of crimson across the sky. The village of Togbavi hummed with life. Women returning from the fields, men gathering by the fire to discuss the day, children laughing as they chased one another barefoot through the dust. Awa prepared supper in her clay pot, the scent of groundnut stew rising into the warm air. Komi, now taller and stronger than ever, sat beneath the mango tree with a book balanced on his knees. His lips moved silently as he practiced the words he had learned at school, his face glowing with pride each time he mastered a sentence. "Soon, Mama," he said, looking up, "I will be the first in this village to become a teacher. And when I do, I will build you a big house so you no longer sleep on mats." Awa laughed, though her heart squeezed with emotion. "A house is only walls, Komi. You are my shelter. As long as I have you, I need nothing else." The boy grinned, that same mischievous spark that always reminded her of her late husband. He finished his meal quickly, then rose to his feet. "Mama, I promised my friend Yao I'd help him with his reading tonight. I'll be back before the moon is high. Awa hesitated. The river had been restless that week, its currents loud, its smell heavy. She remembered his strange dreams, the whispers of the elders, the chill that still lingered from their warnings. "Don't go too far, Komi," she said firmly, "and stay away from the riverbanks." He rolled his eyes playfully. "Mama, you worry too much. I'll be back before you know it." And with that, he ran down the dusty path, his laughter trailing behind him like the echo of a song. The long night. The moon climbed high, silvering the rooftops and trees. Crickets sang in the grass, and the village slowly grew quiet as families retreated into their homes. Awa finished her chores, folded Komi's sleeping mat, and sat by the doorway, waiting. But the minutes stretched into hours. Shadows lengthened, and the mango tree loomed silently above her. "Komi," she whispered into the night. "Where are you?" Her chest tightened with every passing moment. She lit a small oil lamp and walked to the path, scanning the darkness. Only the distant hoot of an owl answered. By midnight, her fear had grown unbearable. She knocked on neighbors' doors, asking if they had seen her son. Some shook their heads sleepily, others joined her search with torches in hand. They combed the village, calling his name, but the boy was nowhere to be found. The river murmured in the distance, its waters glistening like liquid silver. Awa's heart dropped, and though her feet resisted, she knew where she must go. The discovery. At dawn, when the first light painted the horizon, a cry erupted from the riverbank. Villagers rushed toward the sound, Awa among them, her legs trembling with every step. There, half hidden among reeds and wet stones, lay Komi's lifeless body. His eyes were closed, as though in sleep, his lips slightly parted. The river had returned what it had taken, but not alive. Awa collapsed with a wail so raw that it silenced even the birds. She threw herself onto her son, clutching him to her chest, rocking him as though he were still the little boy who once napped in her arms. "No, not my Komi. Ancestors, take me instead. Give him back to me." Her cries tore through the village like thunder. Women wept openly, men bowed their heads in sorrow. Even the elders' eyes glistened as they whispered among themselves. The river called him, and he answered. The funeral rites. The days that followed were shrouded in mourning. The women of the village gathered in Awa's hut, singing laments in voices that rose and fell like the wind. Drums beat slowly, echoing the rhythm of sorrow. Komi's body was washed, dressed in white cloth, and laid upon a mat of palm leaves. Calabashes of water and kola nuts were placed at his side, gifts for the journey to the land of the ancestors. Awa sat beside him, her face pale, her body weak from grief. She had not eaten in days, nor had she slept. Every so often she reached out to touch his cold hand, as if to remind herself that he had truly gone. At the burial, the village walked in silence. The river glistened nearby, cruel in its serenity. When the first shovel of earth was thrown onto the grave, Awa's scream pierced the air. She tried to throw herself into the pit, but the women held her back. "Let me go," she cried. "I cannot live without him. The river has already taken my husband, and now it takes my son. What is left for me?" Her body shook violently until exhaustion silenced her lips. The villagers looked on with heavy hearts. They knew grief like hers had no cure. That night, Awa sat alone under the mango tree, her eyes swollen, her spirit broken. The moon watched silently as she whispered into the darkness, "If the spirits have mercy, they will take me too. For without Komi, I am nothing." The wind stirred gently, rustling the leaves above her head. Somewhere in the distance, the river murmured, its voice deep and mysterious, as though answering her despair. And in that stillness, the story of her sorrow was only beginning. The nights after Komi's burial were long and cruel. Awa lay awake, staring at the dark ceiling of her hut, her ears straining against the silence. The boy's laughter, once so alive, now echoed only in her memory. Every corner of the home reminded her of him, his sandals left by the door, his writing slate leaning against the wall, the mat where he once slept still rolled neatly in its place. Sleep refused to come. Whenever she closed her eyes, she saw his face, peaceful, smiling, as though the river had not stolen his breath. The first sign. On the third night, just as the moon reached its highest point, a strange sound brushed against her ears. It was faint, like the whisper of a child calling from far away. "Mama!" Her heart stopped. She sat up sharply, the lamp flickering as though disturbed by an unseen hand. She strained her ears. Again, the voice, "Mama!" It was Komi's voice, soft, trembling, filled with longing. Tears welled instantly in Awa's eyes. She stumbled to her feet, clutching her wrapper tightly around her. "Komi! My son! Where are you?" The night air seemed to thicken. The room grew cold, though the coals in the hearth still glowed. And then she saw it, a faint figure by the doorway. It was Komi, or what looked like him. His form shimmered like smoke, his eyes luminous, yet sorrowful. He was dressed in the same white cloth he had been buried in, and his lips trembled as though holding back words. The conversation with the dead Awa's knees weakened, but her love for her son gave her courage. She reached toward him with shaking hands. "Komi, my child, you came back to me." But as her fingers touched the air, the figure flickered. He was not flesh, he was shadow, spirit, memory. "Mama," Komi whispered, his voice heavy with sadness. "Why do you cry so much?" "I am not far. I am with the ancestors now. They gave me permission to see you, because your tears shake the ground of the living and disturb the river of the dead." Awa's tears streamed down her face. "I cannot live without you, Komi. Why would the spirits take you from me? You were my only joy, my only reason to breathe." Komi lowered his head. "It was written, Mama. Before I was born, my path was chosen. The river was my gate. You cannot fight destiny." Her chest heaved with grief and anger. "Then why did they give you to me at all? Why let me taste happiness only to snatch it away?" For the first time, the spirit boy's eyes glistened, as if spirits too could cry. "Mama, do not curse the heavens. Every soul is a thread in the great weaving. My life was short, but it was not meaningless. You must live on, even when I cannot." The warning before she could answer, the figure of Komi grew dimmer, as if fading back into the unseen world. Desperation surged in Awa's chest. "No, don't leave me again. Please stay with me." Komi raised his hand gently, the way he used to calm her when she worried too much. "I will come again, Mama. But listen carefully. The river is not finished. Its hunger is not satisfied. You must be strong, for danger will come again. Protect the children of this village. Warn them. If you can save them, you will honor me." Then, as quickly as he had appeared, the spirit dissolved into the shadows. The room fell silent, the air warm once more, as though nothing had happened. Only the faint smell of river water lingered, damp and earthy. The village reacts at dawn. Awa rushed to the elders with trembling lips. She told them everything, the shadow, the words, the warning. Some villagers believed her, bowing their heads in fear. They knew the river was alive, a spirit that claimed lives when angered. Others scoffed, whispering that her grief had driven her into madness. But the eldest of the elders, a man named Nana Koku, placed his hand on Awa's shoulder. "Do not doubt her," he said firmly. "The ancestors often reveal themselves through dreams, shadows, and whispers. If the boy's spirit has spoken, we must heed the warning. The river is restless. We must prepare." From that day, the village held nightly vigils. Mothers clutched their children close, men offered libations at the riverbank, and drummers beat slow, steady rhythms meant to appease the unseen forces. But in Awa's heart, the pain remained. For even though she had seen her son again, she could not hold him. He was near, yet unreachable, a shadow of love, a reminder of loss, a mother's resolve. That night, as she sat once more beneath the mango tree, Awa whispered to the wind, "My son, if the spirits demand that I protect this village, then I will. But know this, I will never stop loving you. Even in death, you remain my heart." The leaves rustled softly, as though the tree itself answered her. And far away, the river murmured, carrying its eternal secret into the dark. The village of Togbavi did not rest after Awa's vision. Though some still doubted her, most carried her words in the pit of their stomachs like stones too heavy to ignore. The elders ordered rituals, the drummers beat nightly rhythms, and libations of palm wine were poured into the river's mouth. Yet, despite these offerings, an unease lingered in the air. The river had grown louder. Its waters, once gentle, now surged and hissed as though in anger. Fishermen who dared to cast their nets swore they heard voices beneath the surface. Low murmurs, whispers in tongues older than memory. Children were forbidden to play near its banks, but even from afar, the river seemed to watch them, shimmering under the sun like a beast with eyes of fire. The first omen. One morning, as the mist lifted over the fields, a strange sight appeared. Dozens of fish floated lifeless upon the river, their silver bodies glistening unnaturally, their eyes wide and glassy. The villagers gathered in silence, staring at the eerie scene. "It is a bad sign," muttered an old woman, clutching her shawl tightly. "The spirits are restless. The river rejects life itself." The elders ordered that no one touch the dead fish. Instead, they were buried with offerings of kola nut and herbs. But the smell of decay lingered, seeping into the very air the villagers breathed. The second omen. A week later, another tragedy struck. A young boy named Yao, the same friend Komi had gone to help on the night of his death, vanished. He had been sent by his mother to fetch firewood, but never returned. The villagers searched tirelessly, their torches flickering through the forest, their voices echoing in the night. At dawn, his sandals were found by the riverbank, half buried in mud. No body was ever recovered. The women wailed, their cries rising with the morning sun. The men shook their heads grimly. "The river has claimed him," said Nana Koku, the elder. "Just as it claimed Komi, a curse has awakened, and it will not rest." Fear in the village from then on, fear ruled Togbavi. Mothers kept their children indoors, even in daylight. Men no longer fished, but relied only on crops, though hunger began to gnaw at the village. At night, strange sounds drifted through the air, low moans like the cries of drowning souls. Some villagers claimed to see shadows moving along the water, shapes that resembled human forms, but dissolved when approached. Others spoke of dreams in which the river called their names, promising wealth and abundance, if only they would surrender themselves. But the most unsettling change was in Awa herself. She began to dream of Komi every night, not as the boy she had raised, but as a guardian clothed in light, standing by the river, his eyes grave. "Mama," he whispered in those dreams, "the river's thirst is not yet quenched. More will fall unless the truth is faced. Look to the past. There is a secret buried there." When she awoke, her heart pounded with dread. What secret could the ancestors be hiding? The revelation of the elders, desperate for answers. Awa went once more to Nana Koku. The elder sat before the sacred fire, his face lined like bark, his eyes shadowed by years of knowledge too heavy for one man to bear. "Tell me, Nana," Awa begged, falling to her knees. "Why does the river hunt our children? Why must it take the innocent? What sin have we committed?" The old man sighed deeply, as though exhaling the weight of generations. He looked at her, and his voice trembled as he spoke. "There is a story, child, a story many have forgotten or chosen to forget. Long ago, before our fathers' fathers were born, this land was not ours. It belonged to a people who worshipped the river as their god. They gave offerings of food, cattle, and sometimes human life. When our ancestors defeated them and took this land, they swore to honor the river with rituals to keep its wrath asleep. But over time, we grew careless. We ceased the sacrifices, and the river became silent. We thought it had forgotten, but the river never forgets ours blood turned cold. So, our children are paying the price for promises broken by ancestors long dead?" The elder closed his eyes. "Yes, the river demands what was once given, blood for blood, life for life, Awa's decision." Awa left the elder's hut with fire in her chest. She thought of Komi, of Yao, of all the innocent lives that might yet be stolen. She could not accept it. "No," she whispered to herself as she walked through the village, "I will not let the river take another child. If the curse is real, then I will confront it. If it seeks life, let it come for me that night." As the villagers huddled in fear, Awa went alone to the riverbank. The moon hung full and white above her, casting a ghostly glow on the restless waters. She carried nothing but her voice and her sorrow. She knelt at the edge of the river, tears streaking her cheeks. "You have taken my husband. You have taken my son. You will not take this village," she cried. Her voice echoed across the water. "If you are hungry, take me. Let me be the last." The river surged violently, as though answering her defiance. Waves slapped against the bank, spraying her face. The air grew cold, and for a moment she thought she heard hundreds of voices rising from the depths, angry, wailing, endless. But then above it all, she heard one voice, Komi's. "Mama, don't!" Her body shook. She turned toward the sound, but the night was empty. Only the river spoke, whispering in its eternal tongue. And so began Awa's greatest trial, to face a curse older than memory, armed with nothing but a mother's grief and love. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the restless murmur of the river. Awa stood at its edge, her bare feet sinking into the cold mud. The moon hung above like an unblinking eye, watching as if the heavens themselves awaited what would unfold. The villagers had begged her not to come. They had tried to hold her back, fearing that she would anger the spirit even more. But Awa's grief had become her courage. She could no longer sit idly while the curse devoured innocent lives. Clutching her wrapper tightly, she stepped forward until the hem brushed the dark water. Her voice trembled, yet carried across the night air. "River spirit, guardian of these waters, you have taken my husband, you have taken my son, you have taken Yao. Enough." The river stirred, ripples spreading like the shiver of a beast awakening. "If it is life you want, take me. But leave this village in peace. Let the children live. Let their laughter return to these fields, the rising of the waters." Suddenly the river swelled. Waves rose high, striking against the banks, spraying her with icy mist. A roar filled the night, louder than thunder, as though 1,000 voices were crying out from beneath the surface. The villagers, who had followed her from a distance, screamed in terror and fell to their knees. Some fled back toward the huts, but others remained, frozen by awe and fear. From the heart of the river, a shape began to form. At first it was only a shadow, darker than the night around it. Then it grew, rising from the water, towering above them all. It was a figure cloaked in flowing waves, its eyes glowing like fireflies, its voice rumbling like the earth itself. "Who calls me?" it bellowed, the sound shaking the very ground. Awa's knees weakened, but she stood tall, her tears streaming freely. "It is I, Awa, mother of Komi." I call you, I beg you, end this curse. Spare our children, spare this village. The spirit's eyes glowed brighter. The debt is unpaid, promises were broken, blood was withheld. I have taken what is mine, and I will take more until balance is restored. The bargain hour's heart pounded, but she raised her chin. If it is blood you seek, then take mine. Let my life satisfy the debt. The river spirit tilted its head, the waters churning around it. Your life is heavy with sorrow. Your sacrifice would be sweet, but it will not be enough. One life cannot cleanse the sins of many, the villagers gasped. Awa's hands trembled, but she did not falter. Then tell us. What will satisfy you? What must we do to free ourselves from this curse? The spirit's form flickered like a torch in the wind. For a moment, its face shifted, becoming the faces of those who had drowned, men, women, children, all their mouths moving as one. Return what was stolen, honor the old ways, only then will the river's hunger sleep, the shadow of Komi. At that moment, a smaller figure appeared beside the Great Spirit. Awa's breath caught in her throat. It was Komi, glowing faintly, his eyes filled with sorrow. "Mama," he whispered, though his voice carried over the roar of the river. Awa reached out, sobbing. "Komi, my son, I thought I lost you forever." "You must not give yourself, Mama," the boy said, shaking his head. "If you do, the river will never stop. It will only grow stronger. You must find another way." The river spirit turned sharply, its voice thunderous. "Silence, child! You belong to me!" Komi's form flickered, his glow dimming as though pulled back toward the depths. But he looked at his mother one last time, his lips shaping words only she could understand. "Seek the truth. The sacrifice was never the river's to claim." And then he vanished, leaving only the raging waters in his place. The collapse. The waves crashed violently, shaking the riverbanks. The villagers cried out, some falling prostrate, others chanting desperate prayers. Awa, drenched and trembling, fell to her knees. "River spirit," she screamed, her voice raw, "you have had enough. You may hold the power of water, but you cannot break a mother's heart. If you take me now, I will go. But know this, my spirit will never rest. I will haunt you even in the depths until my child is free." Her defiance stunned even the spirit. The waters stilled for a moment, as though considering her words. Then, with a final roar, the figure collapsed back into the river, sending waves crashing in every direction. When the water calmed, only silence remained. The moonlight shimmered on the surface, serene once more, as though nothing had happened. The villagers rushed to Awa, lifting her trembling body from the mud. She was weak, pale, but alive. The elders whispered among themselves, "The spirit has spoken." There is more to uncover. The truth is buried deeper than we thought Awa's resolve. That night, as she lay by the fire, her body aching, Awa closed her eyes and whispered to the unseen. "Komi, my son, I will find the truth. I will not stop until your soul is free. Whatever the ancestors are hiding, I will uncover it. Even if it kills me." And far away, in the depths of the river, something stirred. Waiting, watching, listening. Don't forget to unsubscribe if you want, and share this content to help us reach more people. Make sure to activate the notification bell so you never miss an update, and leave your feedback in the comments. We love hearing from you.